Hey Darin, it's Chris McGann. You and I spoke yesterday regarding houses and what you can qualify for. Wanted to share a video with you, and I'm going to send you a email with this Microsoft Excel sheet as well as a link to a report I prepared, which I'll show you in a second. But to answer the question of, hey, what can you qualify for? Well, on my screen, I have your guys' estimated annual incomes. So combined, you guys are just under $12,000 a month for incomes. Now on here, I listed $250 a month for, I'm assuming, credit card payments. Again, that's what's going to show up on your credit report. I was certainly listening yesterday when you explained that you've paid, or rather, your mother-in-law has paid off your Nicole's student loans, and you're making payments to them. So of course we can factor that in. But for the purposes and the sake of qualifying for a mortgage, that's not going to be counted against you in terms of your monthly debts to income calculation. So what does this ultimately mean? So assuming 45% is the maximum allowed for all debts, that's housing payment and any credit card or other payments allowed, then you can have a total payment of $5,362.50 a month, less your estimated credit card payments. That means you guys could potentially have a housing payment as high as $5,100 a month. As I said yesterday, what you guys could ultimately qualify for may be way higher than what your personal budget is. So again, we didn't get into that yesterday because you said you needed to talk with Nicole, but this is just an illustration of what you could ultimately qualify for. What does that translate to in terms of purchase price and purchase power? So assuming $500,000 for a purchase price and a down payment of 3.5%, which is the minimum required for an FHA loan, then your down payment would be approximately $17,500. Again, note here, add an additional approximately $5,000. It may be closer to $10,000, depending on what is negotiated in the contract. So I would say, just for the sakes of conversation, split the difference and say $8,000. So roughly, we're looking at $25,000. Again, this could also be mitigated or reduced if you ask for a seller credit. So you offer $510,000 and ask for a $10,000 credit. But what does this translate to in terms of a monthly payment? So the interest rate would be 5.999, and then the total monthly payment after we factor in the principal and interest, the estimated property taxes, the estimated homeowner's insurance, and the estimated mortgage insurance, because you're doing less than 20%, the total payment would be just under $3,800 a month. Again, this may be totally within your budget, or it may be more than that. What I would suggest, and what you and Nicole can do, is you can play around with these numbers. You can put in a value of $450,000 here. You keep the down payment the same. Don't change the interest rate. Or you can change the down payment if you wanted to increase more. But as you can see, this would result in your payment dropping roughly $400 a month. Now, another thing I will share with you, and I want to show you in this video, is a report that I put together of FHA versus a conventional loan, because those are the two categories of mortgages you can apply for. But as I mentioned yesterday, it's probably more advantageous for you guys to consider an FHA loan because it is more accommodating or forgiving of individuals with FICO scores in the 600s. So really quickly, credit score, or rather interest rate, FHA loan, 5.99, conventional loan, 7.5%. And this is, again, assuming a credit score of 680. So I was certainly listening yesterday when you mentioned Nicole was somewhere between 600 and 620 for her FICO score. Now, another thing that we can talk in much more detail about, we didn't discuss it yesterday, was a temporary buy down of the interest rate. Similar to asking the seller for a credit towards closing costs, a temporary buy down is a fee that needs to be paid by the seller, and that fee can go towards lowering your interest rate temporarily. Hypothetically, you can have a temporary interest rate 2 percentage points lower than what your normal interest rate would be. And again, that's temporary because it's only that way for 1 year. And then the second year, you could have a interest rate 1 percentage point lower. So it would be, in this example, 3.99 for the first year, and 4.99 for the second year. Now, these are popular or gaining popularity because interest rates are the highest they've been in a very long time. And the expectation is that in the next 1 to 2 years, interest rates will come back down. So this is a way to mitigate your monthly payment or keep it reduced, for the short term. Short term being 1 to 2 years. And then you look to an opportunity to refinance. In that time, hypothetically, your guys' credit scores are higher and interest rates are lower and home prices are relatively the same. Maybe they've gone down a little bit, but if your FICOs have increased over that time, you may be able to qualify for a better interest rate with reduced mortgage insurance. So on the right side of my screen for comparison, the most expensive option here is the conventional option, and the total monthly payment would be just under $4,300 a month. Now, the middle of the road option is that FHA loan where you do not pay for a temporary buy down. And as a point of clarification, you and Nicole unfortunately don't have the option to pay for the buy down. It would have to come from a credit from the seller. Long story short, lending guidelines require that. Now, the third option, or the least expensive option in the short term, is doing the temporary buy down where the rate for the first year is 3.99 or 2 percentage points lower than the starting rate. And in that option, you're under $3,200 a month. So you can see it's a pretty significant difference from a monthly payment standpoint, where the conventional option would actually be almost $1,100 more expensive than the FHA option. And then not doing the buy down, the cost is nearly $600 more a month than doing the temporary buy down with the FHA. Please let me know if you guys have any questions after reviewing this. My advice, of course, is still to save your pennies and save money for the down payment and the closing costs. But I'm happy to talk to you about any questions that you and Nicole might have related to loans, related to the houses. We didn't talk yesterday about the houses. Yesterday, the conversation was focused on, as it should be, hey, what can you guys qualify for? So hopefully this illustrates that you guys can qualify for a pretty high purchase price. Ultimately, I think the driver will be what you guys are comfortable with for your monthly payment. So I'll send this information to you now and look forward to speaking with you further. Thanks, Darin.